Calling all Umis! Team Umi Zumi!
1, 2, 3, 4, Umi! Zumi! Umi! Umi, Zumi, Umi, Zumi!
Okay, for our third mission to Mars, we are going to be doing a motion sensor to detect Martians.
We're using this motion sensor to detect Martian motion near our sites.
Yeah, by doing this, it'll allow us to make sure that the Martians are safe and we won't be disrupting their environment while we work.
How we will be doing this is by using a PIR sensor, which is short for passive infrared sensor.
It will be able to detect the change in heat around whatever area the sensor is detecting.
Everybody listens to Biggie, but she different, right? That's why your friends need wristbands.
Hey Earthlings!
Welcome back to this week's mission.
So this week we're doing pros and cons of what sensor we should do for this mission. So for digital sensor, the pros are there is high accuracy and good calibration. There's also good quality for our data processing.
Yeah, so although this seems really attractive, the only major downside is that it's quite costly. But thankfully, because we've used analog sensors the past few weeks, we've been able to save some money, so we can actually spend some on a digital sensor this time, possibly.
So now let's talk about the analog sensor and the pros and cons that it has.
The pros are that it's a very simplistic sensor with a high resolution.
The cons are that although it may be simplistic and a high resolution, it doesn't have the accuracy that a digital sensor will have. Also, it's not going to hold data quality for prolonged periods. So you may access the data in one time and it's good, and then the next time it may degrade a little bit. So it is not a best fit for what we are trying to do.
Okay, now that we've conclusively decided and gone over a lot of the pros and cons of both the analog and digital sensors, which one would be best suited for our motion sensor?
I think we were thinking digital.
Yeah, I think the digital is best.
I would
Definitely
definitely-
digital.
I would definitely
Definitely
say digital
digital.
as well
Okay.
because the analog is just not what we need for what we're trying to do.
Okay, that's fair. That's good. With the digital, there's a lot of stuff that comes with it, like better overall quality of the video. It doesn't degrade, like Jackson said, and it has a digital or it has an analog. Typically, an analog would usually have an analog to digital converter, but it already has that in the digital, making a lot better feedback and quality. So, yeah, this is a good choice. So we all say digital, right?
Digital.
Yep.
Well, the first part of the code sets up the LCD display for the values that the sensor detects. The second part says that if the state is low and it detects motion, then it'll change the state to high and print the motion detected screen. And this third part says that if the state is high and motion is not detected, then it'll print motion not detected and change the state to low. The circuitry of the sensor is basically that the PIR sends an input to the potentiometer, and the potentiometer sends a certain voltage to the LCD display, and the LCD display prints a different display based on the voltage of it, either motion detected or motion not detected.
Did everything I could, then I kept going.
So we had some difficulties throughout our project. We had some solutions for that.
The difficulty choosing between the analog and digital sensor.
We chose digital because it calibrates better, and we wrote pros and cons to find our final solution.
We also had difficulties with finding a new place to film as we were unable to film in the previous location, so we had to come up with a new place to film.
Yeah, to do this, we adapted and we started using handheld mics so that everyone can hear us while being in a loud classroom. This week, I learned a little bit more about how to work the Arduino website, and I learned how to code a little bit more with the help of Emmett. He taught me some stuff, so yeah, that was pretty cool.
I learned more about digital sensor that calibrates better than analog and it has high resistancy. I also learned how to communicate better with my group because we had to change locations, so we learned a lot more about how to communicate.
I learned how to use the inputs from the PIR sensor to make two different print statements.
This week, I learned more about analog and digital sensors, just more in depth from the past weeks. I learned that even though an analog sensor may be simplistic and easy to use, it's not always the best choice because you may need a digital sensor that's able to pick up a more find pieces of data that an analog sensor may just skip.
This week, I was able to learn more about communicating with my team, but also learning a lot more about the analog and digital sensors, what the differences are, and what is best for each of the scenarios that we have for each of them.
Height doesn't always make you happy.